A nativity story following the pilgrimage of the Three Kings will be on stage in Roxbury with performances at Hibernian Hall from December 7th through 16th. To tell us about the production of the musical Unto This House are the playwright and creator-in-chief Alda Marshall Witherspoon and video producer of the show for BNN Media, Steve Marx. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Alda, talk about the beginnings of this, and I guess this is about your relationships at the church where you go regularly. How did this all get started?
Yes. So my first lady from New Hope Baptist Church 3 years ago asked me to help them with their Christmas pageant. And of course I said yes. And she said, well, we'd like to do a play. And I said, okay. And she said, well, you're a playwright, Alda, why don't you give us some, fancy spin? And so I came up with this idea of some songs and some dance, and we came up with some costumes with Ethel Sykes, one of our sisters in the church. And we put this fanfare on. It was a 30-minute presentation. Talked Steve into coming over and sort of...
Was that just talk? I felt like a little muscle.
But that's all right. Okay, talk will do.
I talked Steve into coming over and, sort of capturing, what we were doing in the community. And he was gracious enough to do that. And so after it was over, the pastor was like, Alda, this is fantastic. This is great. We got to take it to the stage. We got to make it 2 hours. We got to go to the public. And I thought he was being polite, as pastors do. And so, but January happened, and he was on my phone, he was in my face, and the next thing I know, I was doing a 2-hour, or at that time, an hour production of Unto This House.
Everybody's a multitasker. Steve, you were involved in this from the humble beginnings. How have you seen it grow?
It's grown enormously. I mean, I was there in the church basement, no costumes, people all on book, only the book wasn't entirely written, and they were all rehearsing. And the first thing that struck me was the warmth with which I was greeted by these people. It was an all-black production. I was this old white guy, and I was coming in this very devout religious environment, and I was just accepted in a way that really warmed my heart and made me want to do it.
Although what's also evolved here is, I guess, the way you tell the story. I don't know whether it's perspective or whatever. What's been happening over the past 3 years?
So originally, the presentation was by the women of New Hope Baptist Church, and so my first lady thought that the perspective should be pretty much from a woman's perspective. But as I began to develop the play, I learned and did more research around the Magi, and I thought that was sort of an interesting perspective, and wanted to sort of take the camera or pan the camera out to get more of a global view. And so I decided to have the Three Kings be sort of the narrative and the voice. So the narrator is actually Magus, king of the Magi, who tells the story to 5 little children along the route and path, actually 30 years after the birth of Christ. So we sort of do this time warp thing. We're in the past, we're in the future, we're now. So it kind of jumps around to tell you a perspective of sort of where the Magi was feeling, where King Herod was, politically, where the Roman Empire sort of fit into the... So we kind of give a little history about the whole perspective of this birth.
And it's not just the birth. You get the whole setting historically, King Herod killing the infants and the flight to Egypt too, right? I
do a little tidbit of that at the end of the play just to sort of forecast what happened after, because it's like quite an astounding positioning. I mean, most of the time, we go right into the biblical story of, Mary's having this baby and here is Jesus, but I kind of take a really broad, point of view, both from a religious perspective as well as sort of a social and political.
And personal. I mean, the personal interaction between Joseph and Mary.
When he's very skeptical about this virgin birth, and then there's this tension. I mean, it's a very personal thing.
I try to explore intimate relationships between the characters. Mary and Joseph actually do not speak the whole time. The narrator actually speaks for them. They are dancers, right? So they have this very lyrical, sort of a mime conversation with each other, with the voice of Magus telling the story to the 5 children.
Steve, you're seeing these performances live, but you're also adapting them for viewing on a screen, maybe even on a laptop. What kind of things do you think about?
Well, we think about the lighting and the sound and the technical things, but we also, this year, for the first time, we're going to have a performance just for TV. So that we're going to be able to stop the action, we're going to be able to set up close-ups, and we'll, position the cameras, reposition the cameras as we go through, and we're hoping that that will be an even more powerful presentation of what Alda's created.
Oh, what about the other ingredients here, especially the music? I imagine a lot of this is gospel music from the church, right?
Actually, no, I wrote all the music. I have a wide genre of music. I have some gospel, I have some spiritual, I have some rap, I have a little bit of R&B. And even though that all sounds kind of eclectic, somehow it really fits in because of the vignettes. Because once you zoom in on King Herod and sort of his dastardly deeds, I do like this R&B dream sequence with him. And the fella who portrays him, Xavier Pearson, he actually crumps. I don't know if you know that dance form.
I've heard about it.
He actually crumps in the middle of that dream sequence. And then I go from that to lyrical ballet. Joe May Dance Company from Hyde Park, we have 16 young people who are doing an astounding job. So they do a bit of modern, they do a little bit of ballet. So it's got a wide perspective in terms of art form.
This is BNN News. We're talking about Unto This House with Alda Marshall Witherspoon and Steve Marx. Steve, eventually, what's going to be happening with this? Is it going to be broadcast, I guess?
Yes. We've done a couple things with it in the past. We like to use things as many times in as many ways as we can. So there are discrete musical numbers. The finale, God's Got That, is really great. I mean, it's got this great slang, especially God's got that, meaning he's got your back, basically. And it's a really powerful number. And we've done that as a standalone, almost like a music video, because there's performance, there's stuff going on at that time. And then we've done interviews with Alda and with Pastor and First Lady. And we integrate those, so we've done stories about it, and then we've done the whole end-to-end performance. So we get as much use out of it as we possibly can at BNN.
Although the performances are going to be December 7th through 16th at Hibernian Hall near Dudley Square, so if people want some more details or get the tickets or something, where should they go to?
They can go online to www.untothishouse.com.
Thank you very much, Alda Marshall Witherspoon and Steve Marx. In a moment, we'll tell you about another holiday production inspired by Charles Dickens.